Okay, time for the next video. This video is one of the last ones for Chronicles and Kings. There's one more short thing I'll talk about, but this is one of the last ones for this section. As I mentioned in an earlier video, there were a lot of bad kings and there were a few good ones. So this is going to focus on the good ones, in particular, one of them. The first one I just wanted to mention was Hezekiah. He comes up in 2 Kings 18, 19, and 20, and 2 Chronicles 29 to 32. And I read it before when I discussed the topic of sickness and so different things. So I'm not going to read through it all again, but I want to just mention, Hezekiah was a good king and he did get a sickness, okay? And God did say, it's time to wrap things up because you're about to die, basically. So, and then through a series of events, he doesn't die. He cries and God changes his mind and gives him 15 more years. And he tells him to get well. He tells the prophet or something, to tell him to take a certain kind of medicine for healing, and then he would get well. And then he did get healthy and lived 15 more years. And the lesson there is that, this whole health and wealth prosperity gospel is a heresy from the devil, okay? You can be as good, let's say, a Christian as can be, and not be healthy. You can still get sick. It's not a punishment. It's not a judgment from God. It's not a bunch of other things like that. It just is life, and it happens. And it's okay to take medicine. It's not a lack of faith to take medicine. God doesn't always perform a miracle to heal you. Sometimes he does, and sometimes he doesn't. And most of the time, I've noticed these stories where he does heal somebody. It's a miracle. It's because it would take a miracle. It was something like cancer, where they would have died. There was no cure otherwise, or it wasn't working. And that's when he stepped in to do a miracle. If this is just a sickness and there's medicine available and you can take it and get well, a miracle isn't required unless you don't have access to that medication. So then it's okay to go ahead and take the medicine. It's just part of life, we need certain things in life, and that's one of them. So that's fine, and nothing wrong with that. So I wanted to emphasize that again. That's what happened. And the same thing with riches. They make the same heresy about that, as if you're poor, it's somehow your fault. That's totally false, especially in today's world. You see that, okay? It's totally false. Most of the time, it's the better people that are poor. Okay, so it's not some kind of lack of anything, whether it's being good or faith or anything like that. So just don't be deceived by those heresies out there, okay? And Hezekiah is a perfect example of all that. He was a good king. He was a great example. And God acknowledged that, okay? So, and all this happened anyway. So just wanted to mention that. Again, if you need a refreshing on that topic, then just read those sections I mentioned about him and you'll see that. Like I said, I already read it, so I'm not going to go over it all again. I just wanted to highlight that about him. And one more thing is sometimes sometimes dying is an act of mercy. Like the fact that God granted him 15 more years may not always be the best thing. And we have to remember it's God's perfect will that's in charge, not ours. We don't know those answers. We don't have that information. He does. And it might have been best for him to go at that time and not 15 years later. As a mercy act, he gave him 15 more years, but some things happened and it weren't so good. So it might have been better if he would have just went earlier. And what do you have to lose, right? So anyway, just wanted to mention that about him. So now that's Hezekiah. And so the next one on the list is Josiah. I never got into this yet because, I didn't come here for any of these things yet. But Josiah is another excellent example of a good king. He'd be right up there with David. So it is in 2 Kings 22, and then 23, 1 to 30, and then it's in 2 Chronicles chapters 34 and 35. So I'll at least read some of it, and that will be this video, and then I'll come back for the next one. Now, Josiah was 8 years old when he became king, and he reigned 31 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jedidah, the daughter of Adaiah of Bozkath. And he did what was right in the sight of the Lord, and walked in all the ways of his father David. He did not turn aside to the right hand or to the left. Now, it came to pass in the 18th year of King Josiah that the king sent Shaphan the scribe, the son of Azaliah, the son of Meshullam, to the house of the Lord, saying, Go up to Hilkiah the high priest, that he may count the money which has been brought into the house of the Lord, which the doorkeepers have gathered from the people, and let them deliver it into the hand of those doing the work, who are the overseers in the house of the Lord. Let them give it to those who are in the house of the Lord doing the work, to repair the damages of the house, to carpenters and builders and masons, and to buy timber and hewn stone to repair the house. However, there need be no accounting made with them of the money delivered into their hand, because they deal faithfully. Then Hilkiah the high priest said to Shaphan the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord. And Hilkiah gave the book to Shaphan, and he read it. So Shaphan the scribe went to the king, bringing the king word, saying, Your servants have gathered the money that was found in the house, and have delivered it into the hand of those who do the work, who oversee the house of the Lord. Then Shaphan the scribe showed the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest has given me a book. And Shaphan read it before the king. So this had been one of the things hidden away in the house of the Lord, gotten dusty, who knows what was piled up on top of it, stashed away somewhere. I don't know if they had shelves, but, back there somewhere. And this one finds it and brings it to the king. Oh, look what I found. Guess what I found? And so he brings it, reads it to him, and then what? See, now it happened when the king heard the words of the book of the law, that he tore his clothes. Then the king commanded Hilkiah the priest, Ahikam the son of Shaphan, Achbor the son of Micaiah, Shaphan the scribe, and Isaiah, a servant of the king, saying, Go, inquire of the Lord for me, for the people, and for all Judah, concerning the words of this book that has been found. For great is the wrath of the Lord that is aroused against us, because our fathers have not obeyed the words of this book, to do according to all that is written concerning us. So Hilkiah the priest, Ahikam, Achbor, Shaphan, and Asaiah went to Huldah the prophetess, the wife of Shallum the son of Tikvah, the son of Harhas, keeper of the wardrobe, She dwelt in Jerusalem in the 2nd quarter, and they spoke with her. Then she said to them, Thus says the Lord God of Israel, tell the man who sent you to me, Thus says the Lord, behold, I will bring calamity on this place and on its inhabitants. All the words of the book which the king of Judah has read, because they have forsaken me and burned incense to other gods, that they might provoke me to anger with all the works of their hands. Therefore, my wrath shall be aroused against this place and shall not be quenched. But as for the king of Judah, who sent you to inquire of the Lord, in this manner you shall speak to him. Thus says the Lord God of Israel, concerning the words which you have heard, because your heart was tender and you humbled yourself before the Lord when you heard what I spoke against this place and against its inhabitants, that they would become a desolation and a curse, and you tore your clothes and wept before me. I also have heard you, says the Lord. Surely, therefore, I will gather you to your fathers, and you shall be gathered to your grave in peace, and your eyes shall not see all the calamity which I will bring on this place. So they brought back word to the king. Okay, so in other words, like, it's too late. He didn't know, and he found out, and his heart was repentant, and he tore his clothes in mourning. So he'll get a good blessing, but the rest of the place, it's like it's a done deal. They've done enough. It's going to happen. Judgment's coming now, and that's it. So, that's the message, Okay, 23. Now, the king sent them to gather all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem to him. The king went up to the house of the Lord with all the men of Judah, and with him all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the priests and the prophets, and all the people, both small and great. And he read in their hearing all the words of the book of the covenant which had been found in the house of the Lord. Then the king stood by a pillar and made a covenant before the Lord to follow the Lord and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all his heart and all his soul, to perform the words of this covenant that were written in this book. And all the people took a stand for the covenant. And the king commanded Hilkiah the high priest, the priests of the 2nd order, and the doorkeepers to bring out of the temple of the Lord all the articles that were made for Baal, for Asherah, and for all the host of heaven. And he burned them outside Jerusalem in the fields of Kidron and carried their ashes to Bethel. I mean, can you imagine? They had all this in the temple. Okay. Wow. Then he removed the idolatrous priests whom the kings of Judah had ordained to burn incense on the high places in the cities of Judah and in the places all around Jerusalem, and those who burned incense to Baal, to the sun, to the moon, to the constellations, and to all the host of heaven. And he brought out the wooden image from the house of the Lord to the brook Kidron outside Jerusalem, burned it at the brook Kidron, and ground its ashes, and threw its ashes on the graves of the common people. Then he tore down the ritual booths of the perverted persons that were in the house of the Lord, where the women wove hangings for the wooden image. And he brought all the priests from the cities of Judah and defiled the high places where the priests had burned incense, from Geba to Beersheba. Also he broke down the high places at the gates which were at the entrance of the gate of Joshua, the governor of the city, which were to the left of the city gate. Nevertheless, the priests of the high places did not come up to the altar of the Lord in Jerusalem, but they ate unleavened bread among their brethren. And he defiled Topheth, Topheth, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, that no man might make his son or his daughter pass through the fire to Molech. Then he removed the horses that the kings of Judah had dedicated to the sun at the entrance to the house of the Lord by the chamber of Nathan Melech, the officer who was in the court, and he burned the chariots of the sun with fire. The altars that were on the roof, the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Judah had made, and the altars which Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of the Lord, the king broke down and pulverized there, and threw their dust into the brook Kidron. Then the king defiled the high places that were east of Jerusalem, which were on the south of the Mount of Corruption, which Solomon, king of Israel, had built for Ashtoreth, the abomination of the Sidonians, for Chemosh, the abomination of the Moabites, and for Milcom, the abomination of the people of Ammon. And he broke in pieces the sacred pillars, and cut down the wooden images, and filled their places with the bones of men. This was, I guess, how it was defiled, but anyway. So, moreover, the altar that was at Bethel, and the high place which Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel sin, had made, both that altar and the high place he broke down, and he burned the high place, and crushed it to powder, and burned the wooden image. As Joshua turned, he saw the tombs that were there on the mountain. And he sent and took the bones out of the tombs, and burned them on the altar, and defiled it according to the word of the Lord, which the man of God proclaimed, who proclaimed these words. Then he said, "What gravestone is this that I see?" So the men of the city told him, "It is the tomb of the man of God who came from Judah and proclaimed these things which you have done against the altar of Bethel." And he said, "Let him alone, let no one move his bones." So they let his bones alone with the bones of the prophet who came from Samaria. Now Josiah also took away all the shrines of the high places that were in the cities of Samaria, which the kings of Israel had made to provoke the Lord to anger. And he did to them according to all the deeds he had done in Bethel. He executed all the priests of the high places who were there on the altars, and burned men's bones on them, and he returned to Jerusalem. Then the king commanded all the people, saying, "Keep the Passover to the Lord your God, as it is written in this book of the covenant." Such a Passover surely had never been held since the days of the judges who judged Israel, nor in all the days of the kings of Israel and the kings of Judah. But in the 18th year of King Josiah, this Passover was held before the Lord in Jerusalem. Moreover, Josiah put away those who consulted mediums and spiritists, the household gods and idols, all the abominations that were seen in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem, that he might perform the words of the law which were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Lord. Now before him there was no king like him, who turned to the Lord with all his heart, with all his soul, and with all his might, according to all the law of Moses, nor after him did any arise like him. So that's what I mean. Josiah was really a good one. And you could see it. He got rid of all those abominations, and he didn't mess around, So, yep. I give him all my stars of approval. Okay. Nevertheless, the Lord did not turn from the fierceness of his great wrath with which his anger was aroused against Judah, because of all the provocations with which Manasseh had provoked him. And the Lord said, I will also remove Judah from my sight, as I have removed Israel, and will cast off this city Jerusalem, which I have chosen, and the house of which I said, my name shall be there. Okay, and now, so like that is great, but there's still other things, and punishment still needs to come because of that. So anyway, now this is the thing. Josiah ends up dying in battle. That goes on from 28 to 30, and he gets buried. And then one may wonder, well, why does he die in battle if the prophecy was, that he would die in peace? And I will show you that. It's over here. Second Chronicles. Here, this is basically the same account so far. He does all those things. Here, Josiah was 8 years old when he became king, and he reigned 31 years in Jerusalem, and he did what was right in the sight of the Lord and walked in the ways of his father David. He did not turn aside to the right hand or to the left. For in the 8th year of his reign, while he was still young, he began to seek the God of his father David. In the 12th year, he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem of the high places, the wooden images, the carved images, and the molded images. They broke down the altars of the Baals in his presence, and the incense altars which were above them he cut down, and the wooden images, the carved images, and the molded images he broke in pieces. And he made dust of them and scattered it on the graves of those who had sacrificed to them. Okay, so it's the same account. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute here. And this part with axes. He busted them all down with axes. You gotta love this guy. Anyway, okay. When he had broken down the altars and the wooden images, and beaten the carved images into powder, and cut down all the incense altars throughout all the land of Israel, he returned to Jerusalem. Okay, so he does this, and the same thing, he finds the book of the law, and he does all these things. It's the same as the other account, but they gave him, the same prophecy. He'll go to his grave in peace, and so on. Then he restores true worship in the temple, all of that. Keeps the Passover in 35. It's the same thing, but I'll show you the thing that's different. Over here, see this one, Josiah dies in battle. It's a little different, okay? I mean, the other one doesn't give you the details as this one does, so that's the difference, but this is where you get the insight. Okay, so after all this, when Josiah had prepared the temple, Necho, king of Egypt, came up to fight against Chemish by the Euphrates, and Josiah went out against him. So, this had nothing to do with him, and he meddled in it. All right, but he sent messengers. So this Pharaoh, he sent messengers to him saying, what have I to do with you, king of Judah? I have not come against you this day, but against the house with which I have war. For God commanded me to make haste. Refrain from meddling with God, who is with me, lest he destroy you. Nevertheless, Josiah would not turn his face from him, but disguised himself so that he might fight with him and did not heed the words of Necho from the mouth of God. Okay, so he came to fight in the valley of Megiddo. Okay, and the archers shot King Josiah, and the king said to his servants, "Take me away, for I am severely wounded." His servants therefore took him out of that chariot and put him in the second chariot that he had, and they brought him to Jerusalem. So he died and was buried in one of the tombs of his fathers, and all Judah and Jerusalem mourned for Josiah. Jeremiah also lamented for Josiah, and to this day all the singing men and the singing women speak of Josiah in their lamentations. They made it a custom in Israel, and indeed they are written in the laments. Okay, and then that's about it for him. But he went out, and it was like he didn't follow the rules, and then this happened to him. So if the prophecy was, if he obeys, then he'll get that. He didn't, so that part didn't come to pass, and that's it. But the part that I think was happening is, he was probably thinking, if he does things right, God will still relent and not bring the judgment and give him victory in battle and give them more, like with David, and he can just step out and do it anyway. But it wasn't God's will. That wasn't the plan, so it didn't work, and that's why that happened. But he made a mistake, and that's it. But that's why it didn't happen exactly that way, and that was the deal. So I just wanted to share that. But that is it with Josiah. Now, this happens a lot in here, where it's just because they broke a rule or something happened, and then there's a calamity. But that's why those things happen. There is a reason for it. There's an explanation for every single thing, and that's it. But so that's what it is. Most of the time it's that. So anyway, but that is it for Josiah and this video. So I'll be back for the next one. Be right back.